off. All right, here we are. I think we're here. I'm pretty sure we're here. Hoping to God we're here. We are here. All right, here we are, folks. Welcome, 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 everybody, to b.hive Productions Horror Hump Day. It is that time once again during the week when I read you a chapter from one of my stories or a short story that I have written and published for you. We are currently on the Sleepwalker saga from my book. From my book Sleepwalkers or Sleepwalker, and it is available on Amazon, also available on BarnesandNoble.com if you care to check it out. It is Christmas time. If you have a lover of horror stories, please jump on Amazon and check it out there. They're fairly reasonably priced books. I've got about 10 or 11 of them. Two of them, I think, are like poetry books. The rest are all scary stories. So, hello, Kevin. Hello, Shannon. Good evening, Beth. And hello, Jessica. And hello, Steph. I hope you guys are doing well out there and staying warm. Kevin, I already know you are, pal. But the rest of us here are dealing with single-digit temperatures today. And that wind was pretty gross. During work, I had to use my inhaler probably about 4 or 5 times so that I could breathe. So Steph has brought the bees and the badgers. So with between her and Chuck, I think we'll be doing all right and being protected. So anyhow, with Sleepwalker, we are currently on chapter 5, I believe, 5 or 6, and it's a chapter called Homecoming. After working by the door at work, I'm ready for story hour. I bet you are. Yeah, get that heater going. So I'm kind of cold here. There's a little bit of a draft coming in through the big windows over here, but anyhow, we're all gonna warm up together here. I'm warming up by the glow of my laptop. But on Sleepwalker. Basically, how the story has gone, if you guys are just joining us for the first time, Sleepwalker is a story about 2 friends that go hunting and up in northern Minnesota, and they lose the rights to hunt in this land that they have hunted in for a long time, and it got sold, and so they're hunting on public land in a place called Wendigo Woods. And BroadMeadow falls asleep when they go hunting, and he slips through a thin spot in time-space reality, and he wakes up in a different reality. And that is kind of his, well, not kind of, it is his predicament here in the story. So far, he has dealt with the Wendigo. He has dealt with a pandemic. He has dealt with a pioneer vampire, and last week he dealt with reptoid aliens who had taken over the city of Grand Rapids, Minnesota. So, and we last left him. He sacrificed himself to blow up a portal that these reptoids had opened up, and they were basically shipping us as food into their dimension. So tonight's story, BroadMeadow will be waking up in outer space. And so I thought with that, I have some space background sounds just for you folks, because I love you so much. So it sounds a little bit something like this. Does it sound like we're on a ship? Kinda, sorta. So anyhow, without further ado, I think we'll just jump into it. It's a bit of a long story, and so I won't go into any other type of facts or whatever. What is cold exactly to you, Kevin, down there in Florida? Is it like 70 degrees? You know, you had to wear cargo shorts instead of regular shorts. Do you even wear shorts? I don't think I've ever known you to wear shorts, so you're kind of like me. I don't wear shorts unless there's a beach in front of me. So, anyhow, without further ado, and I imagine, I think most of you regular drones are in here tonight. We got Shannon, Kevin, Beth, Jessica, Steph. We're missing Jason and Chuck. But I have a feeling they will chime in later. Anyhow, if you guys have friends that you think would be interested in watching and listening to a live read from my books, please invite them to come on over. These live streams are public, so anybody on or off Facebook can tune into these. You just have to send them the link, and they just click on the link, and it brings it up on their phone, or their laptop, or whatever they're watching and listening on. Gonna be 40 by morning with 30 mile per hour winds. Well, that really sucks. I feel really bad for you, Kev. I do. So it's supposed to get up to 36 on Monday here. So, that's short weather. It's flip-flop weather, for Minnesota. Anyhow, all right, we're going to jump right in the story and wake up on the starship here. Oh, Bobby is watching from Silver Lake. He must be out at his folks' place. So no shorts until 90 degrees. I see. There you go. All right. I actually, since I've gotten older, I've worn shorts more often. Like I wore shorts probably about 3-4 times this last summer. So I don't know. I think it's an age thing or something, But you'll never catch me on a motorcycle with shorts. So, oh, Beth is also watching from Silver Lake. Okay, so you guys are both out there. Gotcha. All right, well, let's jump into the story, folks, with Homecoming. Homecoming. Wakey, wakey, Lieutenant BroadMeadow, Sergeant Jeff Eastman said. Time to celebrate. Bo inhaled deeply, almost in a gasp, and started to hyperventilate. Easy now, buddy. You've been in CryoSleep. How many fingers am I holding up? His lungs hurt as they began to breathe the artificial oxygen. Everything was blurry when he opened his eyes. He could only make out a dimly lit cabin. A person was crouched near him, holding up a blurry hand. Did we get him? Bo said through a dry throat. Did we get who? His friend asked. The reptoid. Your brain's gonna be a little wonky for a bit. You've been asleep for about a year. A year? What? Where am? You're aboard the USV Alcubierre. Do you remember that? His vision was clearing, and his friend finally came into focus. You could see he was in a tube or a cryopod. There were 2 others waking up in the cramped cabin with him. The Alcubierre? There we go. Do you recognize those 2 girls over there? He squinted at the female shapes across from him. When they came into focus, his body began to warm up, and a slight smile lit on his face. Eva? He croaked. Shelley? Hi, you good? Dr. Eva James asked him. She was his partner outside the space program. Jeff, Dr. Shelley Eastman, Jeff's wife. Give him some water for Christ's sakes. Oh, shit, Jeff said, pulling a bag of water from a compartment in the ceiling and handing it to him. Sorry, buddy. What's going on? Bo said, feeling the relief of water going down his dusty throat. We made it. The experiment worked. The FTL engine performed within specs and got us from one side of the solar system to the other within a year's time. That's wonderful. Eva floated over to him and gave him a kiss on the lips. Ew, she smiled. Morning breath. You guys freshen up, Jeff said. I'll head up to the cockpit and see how things are going with our captains. At the helm sat Captain Stephen Barker, and his co-captain, Clive King. Out of the front window, Jeff could see the Earth in all her beauty. Between them and the Earth was the International Space Station, Mark IV. "She's beautiful, ain't she?" he commented to the pilots. "She is," Barker said, "but she's not responding." "What do you mean?" "We've put out a call to Houston and Cape Canaveral, and we've received nothing but white noise." "AEB aqua la nave especial unida Alcubierre. Entramos en el vector 1097. Copias cambio?" King called out on to the Brazilian Space Agency. Nothing. "That's it," King said, flabbergasted. "I've tried every contact. CNSA in China, the Russians, ISRO in India, JAXA in the UK. Nada. No welcome home party or nothing." "And the ISS isn't answering their phone either?" Jeff said. "No, no one's home," Captain Barker said. "Just the beacons are on, but no interior lights." "What's up?" Bo asked from behind Jeff. "I think we all better buckle in," Jeff tells his friends. "I think we're planning on docking at the ISS." The impulse engine shut down and the thrusters began to maneuver their ship in a 180-degree angle. "Prepare for docking," Barker called out. The thrusters gave out one last hiss, and there was a metallic clang as the spacecraft rested on the embankment pads. There was a hum as the magnetic clamps hooked onto the airlock, and another hiss as the compartment sealed. "Connecting to the onboard systems now," King said. "Run a diagnostic as soon as you get connected," Barker ordered. "Are we going to check it out?" Jeff asked, unbuckling his seatbelts. "Give us a few. I know we've been gone for over a year, but there's something that leaves me uneasy about all this silence." "I'm in," King states. "All life support systems are operational, but are shut down. Comms are also down." "Did they at least activate a distress beacon?" Barker asked. "No, sir. I've been trying to pull the commander's log, but I'm coming up short." "Looks like we're going to have to pay a visit in person." Barker looks back at the crew. "Dr. Eastman, I'd like you to go with King on recon. There may be injured persons on board." "Yes, sir," Shelley said. "But if the life support's been off, I don't think there's going to be anyone left alive on board." "I'm aware of that, Doctor. But just in case, I'd like you to be there. King, keep your camera on recording. And I want constant radio contact. Is that understood?" "Yes, sir." King and Shelley suited up. Jeff came by to kiss his wife. The heavy airlock door buzzed for a few seconds, and then the locks popped and then hissed. Single file, they floated into the space station's airlock, and the doors were closed again and locked. "This is Co-Captain Clive King with Dr. Michelle Eastman from the USV Alcubierre entering the airlock of the International Space Station Mark IV. There has been no communication or sign of its crew, and we are investigating." "Barker, are you getting this?" "Loud and clear, King." Barker has the large monitor on, so the rest of the crew can observe in the cockpit. The picture is grainy and dark. The only light is from the light on his and Shelley's helmet. Steph's watching from across the house. She's on the warm side of the house, I think. Oh, let's see. "We're stepping from the airlock into the main corridor. All lights are out, and it is silent." "King, the command module is to your right. You should be able to get all the systems up and running from there." "Copy that, Captain." Clive and Shelley float into the command module. Inside there are 4 chairs, 2 on each side, sitting in front of control panels. A few dimly lit buttons are blinking. Monitors project the ISS logo. Lighting up sections 1 through 4. King is clicking switches, and in the background, you can see that it is getting brighter. Now 5 through 8. Even from the windows in the cockpit of the spaceship, the crew could see the inside lights turn on in the space station. 9 through 12 are on, switching on life support to all corridors. Oxygen rushed through the ventilation shafts of the many corridors. So you should be able to link to the commander's logbook now. Patching in now, Barker said. I'm showing one of the escape pods have been launched. How many crew members are supposed to be on board? According to the roster, 11. They should have a complement from each agency out there. Even some civilians from SpaceX. Then where is the rest of the crew? Commander King? Shelley asked. Yes. You have blood on your suit. What? It's beaded up along your shoulder blade, Captain. Can you see it? Barker and the rest of the crew could see a dark red splatter of blood on Commander King's back. King and Shelley slide the visors closed on their helmets. Affirmative. The crew watched as King made his way slowly out of the command module and out into the main corridor. What looked like blood was floating in semi-coagulated globules throughout the craft. Captain, are you guys getting this? King asked. We can see it. Why don't you two head back to the ship? We can go over the ship's logs in here. Shelley and Clive made their way to the airlock. Clive began to punch in the lock code to begin clearing the room. Commander King? Shelley asked, touching his arm. Are you hearing that? There was an audible knocking sound coming from what sounded like the medical lab. I hear it, King said. Can you guys hear that? It's like a knocking noise on metal. Barker turned up the volume on his monitor. I can't make it out, Barker said. Where is it coming from? Not sure. Sounds like it's coming from the direction of the medical lab. I'll check it out. Be cautious. Overhead lights flicker above them as they slowly move about the gore-stained corridor, between being careful not to touch the dark globules floating around them. The knocking is getting louder, King states. We're coming around the corner now, from the main common room. The motion lights flicker on as they make it to the outside of the med lab module. No one can make out what's in the lab as the glass on the viewport is smeared with what looks like blood and hair. The knocking has stopped, Shelley said. Clive, Captain Barker speaks up into the personnel intercoms. Why don't you and Dr. Eastman head back to the ship? We'll go over the logs and plan a strategy from there. And Chuck arrives with the badgers and the bees. They can join up with staff. Fine by me, Shelley says enthusiastically. Make sure you two decon the suits when you come through the airlock. Copy that, King said. International Space Station, log entry 2213, November 3. Commander Lindsay Gantz. Dr. Donovan Brevik and cosmonaut Adam Tolchev have successfully gathered samples from asteroid labeled 3742-B. Samples were brought to the ISS via the Asimov retriever module. Samples were encapsulated and quarantined in the science lab's isolation cabinet until deemed safe for study. Briefed shortly with crew regarding the return of the USV Alcubierre FTL space shuttle. All preparations have been made for their arrival in the next few weeks. SpaceX civilian explorers seem to be adjusting well to life in space. outside of the typical claustrophobic reactions to closed quarters. Science experiment A21 from the University of Minnesota have been put on hold until we've made preliminary studies of our recent findings on 3742-B. JAXA astronaut Zing has been working on the directional particle spectrometer. Work should be done by the end of the week. International Space Station, log entry 2213, November 5. Commander Lindsay Gantz. The specimens from 3742-B have cleared quarantine, and Dr. Breivik and Dr. Santiago and Dr. Rasmussen will be leading the study. Preliminary data: 2 parts unknown calcium crystal, 2 parts carbon matter, 3 parts magnesium, 11 parts nickel, and 9 parts cobalt. A spectral analysis of certain rock parts reveals that there is a liquid of some sort in the center of the specimen. Unknown composition for now. Diamond cutter is being used for other work and will need to be deconned and quarantined for 24 hours. Photographs for National Geographic were taken of Earth and sent. Cosmonauts Kolchev and Korzempa gave briefing to their government via video. Plant experiment for University of Texas Botanical Department has failed. Conclusions will be sent out by the end of the week. International Space Station, log entry 2213, November 6. Commander Lindsay Gantz. The crust of the specimen, 3742-B, has been removed. Drilled through mantle of specimen, 3.6 centimeters into the mantle specimen revealed a thick, black, gelatinous material. Contained material in glass observation jar. Dr. Breivik took sample from substance 1.32 cc's and observed in an electron microscope. Data reveals substance is living tissue. If these findings are proven correct, this will be the first time mankind has discovered life outside of Earth. See Breivik video log. That's it? King said. That's the end of the log? It appears so, Barker said. Let's see Breivik's video log. Can we pull that up? Dr. Donovan Breivik, University of Alaska graduate with a PhD from USC's biology department, was a man of 36, tall, short, strawberry blonde hair with brown, sad eyes. Horn-rimmed glasses sat on the bridge of his nose, as if they wanted to jump off. As the video begins, it is a close-up view of what Breivik is seeing through his microscope. There are moving organisms within a dark, oily mass. As you can see, Donovan narrates, the test specimen I've withdrawn from the asteroid does have the components of what looks to be life. The organisms within have yet to be tested. But initially, this black substance is either a biosphere for microscopic life or it's a multi-celled organism. The video cuts to a shot of him floating next to the microscope. His face is happy and proud. We could be looking at our very first E.T., he continues. Just the microbial life is exciting enough to find on a sample from an asteroid. Normally things like this are found in extraterrestrial oceans such as Europa. I'm hoping to find this to be a multi-celled organism. A first for Earth explorers. Can you imagine? The first faster-than-light flight, and now this news. Dr. Breivik removes the sample from the electron microscope and pulls his hand back. Damn it, he says, holding up his finger. The glove he was using is torn from the glass slide, and a few droplets of blood float out from his finger. The video shuts off. What do you guys think? Captain Barker asks. That's the end of the logs? Shelley asks. Computer's still digging around in the archives. I wanted to look at the last 2 active posts to get a clear idea as to what happened around here. Do you think there was a contagion in that asteroid sample? You're the scientist, Doc. You tell me. I can't really speculate until I've looked at all the data. Surely the team wrote notes on what they found after this. Well, let's look at what we got. No radio contact with this station or the entire worldwide space program. We have a station with 1 missing escape pod, and we're not able to find any crew so far. We also don't know what was making that tapping sound in the medical lab, King says. And we have that, Barker grimaced. Eastman, BroadMeadow. Yes, sir, they both said in unison. I need you both to check out the rest of the station. I want you fully armed. I don't know what you're going to find, but we're going to treat this as an outbreak until we get some more facts. Fire only if provoked. Look for any notes or clues you can find and bring them back here. Sir? Bo asked. What is it? What if we find the crew? The chances that the crew is alive are very slim. Despite the knocking King heard earlier, I want you to keep your visors sealed and avoid any foreign material that's floating around in there. Is that understood? Yes, sir. And decon yourselves and anything you bring back from there. As Jeff and Bo suited up, Shelley met them at the airlock. They both looked worried. It's gonna be okay. You don't know that, Shelley says. Yeah, and I really got a bad feeling about this. That knocking kind of sealed the deal for me. Nothing should be alive on the station. Not after the life support was off for who knows how long. Maybe some of them kept alive via spacesuit, Jeff said. Then why didn't they just keep the life support on? Who took off in the escape pod? Look, Bo and I were assigned on here for security reasons. This is our job. We're armed and we got each other's backs. It's gonna be okay. I really hate this. Shelley leaned over and kissed her husband. You ready to go, amigo? Bo asked Jeff. Jeff flipped him his right thumb. Thumbs up. They entered the airlock and switched on their cameras and their comm systems. Breaker, breaker, y'all got your ears on? Bo says into his mic. Read you loud and clear, Lieutenant, Barker calls back. The compressor in the airlock hums and hisses as cabin pressure is readjusted. After a minute, the noises stop, and the hatch to the station pops out. Jesus on a crutch! Bo gasps as the strings and shimmering puddles of blood floating in 0G. Sorry, I just wasn't ready for that so quick. Everything all right in there? King asks. Yep, yeah, we're good. Heading over to the escape pod module. Need to confirm that only one was jettisoned. Bo opens the hatch and floats in. The escape pods are the shape of a coffin. Metal coffins with 2 powerful jets to break the planet's gravitational pull, and 2 small hydrogen thrusters to steer. They are lined around the module, and one is missing. Definitely one is gone, Bo reports. I'm checking the access log now. Usually need to log in to unlock these things. Jeff stands vigil outside the module. Sergeant Eastman, Barker says. Any noise coming from out of the med lab? None that I can hear, sir, Jeff says. Was planning on heading there after we check this out. Roger that. Captain, Bo interrupts. Looks like it may have been one or both SpaceX civilians that took the escape pod. It's a generic login. Do you think 2 could fit in an escape pod? It's not likely, but it's possible. I'm only thinking they both went since they're both civvies. They head down the corridor to the Commons module. There are 5 tubes exiting this module. To the left is the tube to the med lab sick bay. To the right is crew quarters. Ahead is the kitchen cafeteria, and the tube below them goes to an all-glass observation deck called the cupola. They hang to the left and approach the med lab hatch. "Jeff," Bo says, "you got me?" Jeff gives his trademark thumbs up again and readies his rifle. "We're entering the med lab now," Bo says. Everyone holds their breath, both watching on the monitor and in person. As the hatch opens, the semi-skeletal remains of one of the ISS crew floats out towards them. Most of its body is the black substance stretched tightly around the skull and the rib cage. Most of its spacesuit is gone from the torso, and only small rags hang on its legs. It looks to be reaching out to touch Bo and Jeff, and Jeff takes the shot. Immediately, the skull explodes, and the chunks begin to float towards them. The body is thrown back from centrifugal force. "Jesus!" Bo shouts. Jeff keeps his rifle trained on the body. Bo goes into the room, keeping his eyes on the floating corpse. "I've found a notebook," Bo says. "Grab it and bring it back with you," Barker orders. "Bo," Jeff says, "back out of there now." "What's up?" Bo asks. "Look at that black stuff on him. It seems to be moving." The obsidian substance does seem to be slithering off the body, as if it were reaching for Bo. He backs out into the corridor and shuts the hatch and seals it. "I'm guessing our culprit is whatever they brought back off of that asteroid 3432-B, Barker says. "I'm guessing the entire sample is in the lab," Bo says. "Read what's in the notebook. Maybe that will shed the light on what's happened here." Okay, let's see here. After what happened to Brevik and Min, I've isolated the sample in here with me. From what I can conclude, the organism is a virus of some sort. Once it enters the body, it houses itself into area 4 of the frontal lobe of the brain, or the primary motor cortex. The organism controls the body with the sole purpose of gathering food, which seems to be living tissue. As shown with patient Brevik, when the lab rat was introduced to it, it must be living tissue fed to the host, or it will begin to eat the living tissue from its host. Because the danger to the rest of the crew, we have unanimously decided to jettison their bodies from the airlock. Dr. Edgar Whittaker. Partial entry. I have quarantined myself in the lab. The survivors, not sure how many are left, are scattered about the station. SpaceX astronaut Benjamin Cortez was infected and subsequently terminated. His wife jettisoned herself from the station in one of the escape pods. I myself can feel the organism move through my body and know that I will not be in control for much longer. Commander Gantz has locked down all escape pods. After communicating with Earth, we've decided to quarantine the entire space station to stop any chance of infection. My only hope is that astronaut Marta Cortez was not infected, or that she made touchdown on Earth. We have tried to contact the USV Alcubierre, but our signal is not strong enough. This will be my final entry, I think, because I cannot leave this module to obtain living tissue for the passenger inside my brain. I'm sure it will begin to... Entry stopped. What the hell did we return to? Jeff said. Do we jettison the med lab module? Bo asked. What if it ends up landing on Earth? I'm sure it would burn up in the atmosphere. Judging by the non-communication from Earth, Barker states, I'm going to take a wild guess that Cortez was infected. Who knows what's on the ground now? We may be touching down to a zombie apocalypse. The intercom was silent for a good 5 minutes, each person trying to absorb the reality of their situation. Unlock the med lab module, Lieutenant, Barker says finally. We're going to need to sweep the station and make sure we get rid of all contagion on board. I fear if things are bad on Earth, we may be stuck up here for a while. Roger that, Captain, Jeff said. Please be careful, you guys, Shelley says. No worries, Jeff answers. We got each other's fixes. We'll be back in time for supper, Bo comments. Just then, the knocking starts again. Shh, Jeff says. You hear that? What's going on, boys? Barker asks. I think we're hearing that knocking Shelley and Clive heard earlier. We can't hear it on the monitors. It's just audible over the fans. I think it's coming from the port to the cupola module. Well, be careful. Bo and Jeff float over to the hatch on the floor. There's a quiet knocking from the other side. Bo cranks the lock open on the hatch while Jeff stands opposite of him with his rifle ready. I wouldn't fire the rifle at it, Sergeant, King says. The cupola module is almost entirely made of tempered glass. You break that, and the entire ISS, including the Alcubierre, will implode on itself. Shit, Jeff says and positions his rifle as a bludgeon and then nods at Bo. The heavy hatch creaks open, and another crew member from the ISS comes floating up from the observation module, hungrily growling at Jeff. Its skull is just skin pulled tight against it, black veins coursing underneath. It reaches out greedily towards Jeff, who hits it directly in the face. Cheekbones shatter and the eyeballs release from their sockets and float out in either direction. Still, it keeps reaching for Jeff. Its skeletal fingers try to rip at his spacesuit, and bony fist tries to punch at his visor. Bo grabs a large wrench from the tool caddy on the wall, trying with all his might to connect a deadly blow to the thing's head. It has Jeff pinned to the wall of the commons area. Get this fucking thing off me, he shouts. Each of Bo's attempts at damaging the thing are fruitless, so he grabs the thing by its tattered rags and hurls it to the other side of the capsule. It somersaults over the table and hits the other wall, ejecting more of its damaged face into zero gravity. It gurgles in pure, hungry rage at the both of them, its jaws hanging by a few pieces of sinew, eyeless sockets trying to find them, while its black tongue writhes in the gaping wound of its mouth. The black fluid begins to flow out of the eye sockets in small droplets. Bo locks his left foot into a railing and grabs it, hurling it towards Jeff, who swings the butt of his rifle like a baseball bat. Its head explodes in a hideous rainbow of gray, black, yellow, and red. They back themselves into the crew quarters and seal the hatch. Jeff searches the module to make sure there aren't any surprises inside. Secured, he closes the other hatch that leads into the spare sleeping quarters. Are you guys okay? Barker asks, concerned. Bo looks himself over and then floats over to Jeff, who is leaning against one of the bunks on the wall, which is basically a formed gel cushion with padded straps to keep the sleeper secured. Hey, buddy. Bo looks over at Jeff. You doing okay? Yeah, he says, a little out of breath. That thing did a number on your visor. There are little cracks like spider webs where the thing tried to punch its way into his helmet. Bo also notices a small tear in Jeff's spacesuit. Lieutenant, Barker asks, what's your assessment? Just a little worn out, Captain, Bo answers. Jeff's visor is a little cracked, but it's still sealed. He's got a small tear in his suit, but only seems to be the top layer of fabric. Sergeant Eastman, your camera's out. Can't read anything on the monitors. I've been able to patch into the cameras in the Commons module, and it looks like you both were able to subdue that thing. Good job. You've got one problem, King says. I wouldn't risk walking through there to get back to the ship. That Commons area is a hot zone now. Can't see it, but whatever it was that was in the astronaut's body could be floating around in there and could possibly infect one of you, especially Sergeant Eastman with those cracks in his helmet. Well, then I guess we'll have to spacewalk it to you from the other side of the station, Bo says, and hopefully don't have to deal with any more of those things. Suddenly, the sound of scraping metal and a loud groan echoed throughout the station. Everything shakes, and then some of the seals begin to hiss. Captain? Bo asked. We've got another problem now, Barker states. The MedLab module just bounced against the station. According to diagnostics, it took out a couple of the arrays and damaged a few of the pressurized mating modules. Ah, shit, Bo says, looking at his friend. We got this, Jeff says with a distant smile. Bro, the condition of your suit puts you at risk. One of those mating modules pop and you get sucked out of your suit and turned to jelly. Well, that's the risk we take. Nope, you stay in here. I'm gonna look for another suit. Lieutenant BroadMeadow, Barker says. There's a huge risk there's more infected out there, or perhaps the rest of the station could collapse. Well, if we don't get Jeff in a different suit, he won't survive if there's a breach. Sorry, Shelley, I don't mean to upset you, but... It's okay, Bo, she says sadly. Do what you can. Please. Bo walks out the other hatch with wrench in hand and reseals it. He jumps at the sight of two other crew members floating about the spare quarters. Sergeant BroadMeadow, are you okay? Barker shouts. Yep, I think two of the crew here were the living tissue this thing feeds on. They're not like the other one. And judging by the bite marks on these guys, it looks like they were the food. Jesus, to be trapped in this contraption with things like that. There's a crunching noise that stops the heart of everyone listening. A long, drawn-out creak, then nothing but the sound of the seals hissing. Bo, Barker said calmly in the intercom. We've seen movement on the closed circuit in engineering. It's hard to tell because the lenses on the camera have blood on them. But it looks like two bodies coming your way. Damn it, Bo curses. I was able to find a helmet, but not a suit. I may be able to patch that tear with some latex tape. Bo, get out of there. There is more creaking noises, and the entire station rattles. Bo makes it back into the sleeping quarters with Jeff. Que pasa, amigo? Bo greets. Found you a nice hat. Jeff grabs Bo by the arms and looks gravely into Bo's visor. Listen to me, Jeff says. Forget about the helmet and the suit. You're going to need to get into one of those escape pods. Well, what are you talking about? Put the helmet on and we'll spacewalk out of here. There's no way out, buddy. We've got those things looking to eat us like a couple of big stacks from Stack Donald's. Wait, what? Stack done. There's no time. I'm gonna draw the attention of that blob in the common room while you get to the escape pod module. No, I'm not leaving you behind. We can both... Shut up for a minute. This is the only way. He's right, BroadMeadow, Barker says solemnly. You can't come through the airlock. The tanks are ruptured. We're gonna have to pull the ship away from the station in a few minutes. The station is falling apart. A tear begins to float from Bo's eye. I'm sorry, Jeff. It's okay, brother, Jeff says. Let's get this done. As soon as the hatch is opened, the black globule raced over and attached itself to Jeff's helmet. Jeff! Bo cried out. Get to the escape pods, Jeff muttered. Quick! Jeff floated over to the open hatch to the cupola module and pointed his rifle at the glass below him. The organism was trying its best to leak in through the crack in his visor. Bo got in the escape pod module and climbed inside one of the pods. BroadMeadow, Barker said. We're disembarking from the station. Once you've jettisoned, we'll try to maneuver over to you and pick you up. Escape pod 7A. Locked. Lock code 0613-2017 B. BroadMeadow. Escape pod 7A. Unlocked. Hurry it up, buddy, Jeff says on the intercom. This thing is starting to get in my helmet. Escape pod 7A. On. Escape pod 7A. Life support on. O2 levels full. Escape pod 7A. Release in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The outside hatch blows off and the pod floats out of the station. I wish you didn't have to do this, man, Bo says to Jeff. Promise me one thing, Jeff says. Name it. Promise me, if my sons are okay, you'll take them deer hunting and teach them. You teach them like I taught you. There's a loud bang and then a roar. Jeff screams, but it's cut short as the station begins to fold in on itself. Bo knows there's no time to mourn his friend. Shrapnel from the station is beginning to fly about, and if he doesn't maneuver, he's done all this for nothing. BroadMeadow status, Barker calls over. All systems go, Captain. We'll pull around and pick you up. Try not to get hit with... The radio then goes silent. Bo steers his pod around to face the direction of the USV Alcubierre. A large section of the station has slammed into the dark matter generator. The hull has been breached, and he can see it begin to crumple. Captain! He screams. Eva! Shelley! The inertia of his descent is captured by Earth's gravity. His tears begin to flow now instead of float. Escape pod 7A. Descent. Brake thrusters activated. Internal cooling systems activated. He can hear and feel the rumble of the brake thrusters as they kick on to slow his descent to Earth. Escape pod 7A. 11 kilometers. 10 kilometers. 9 kilometers. As the clouds race past his porthole, he begins to see the Earth, laid out before him like a live map. Sections of land divided into perfect shapes. Lakes and other bodies of water sit like mirrors. Escape pod 7A. Brake thrusters slowing. 4 kilometers. Airbags deployed. He is too wrapped in his grief that he doesn't notice the fires that burn in the nearby city of Minneapolis, or the traffic jams of cars trying to leave the city, the vehicles filled with half-eaten people, hordes of infected scattered amongst the outer rim of the suburbs, feeding on anything that is warm-blooded. Escape Pod 7A, 1.37 kilometers. Thrusters off. Parachute released. O2 tanks jettisoned. Ventilation open. The parachute catches the wind and heaves him towards a wind turbine. Escape Pod 7A, impact in T-minus 2. And that, my friends, is the end of Homecoming. So there we go. That story is actually how the zombie apocalypse in Zechariah 14:12 begin. Is from that SpaceX astronaut, Miss Cortez. She brings the virus to Earth. And you find out about that in the book Jeremiah 19:9, which hasn't been written yet. It's started to be written, but yeah, it's just one of my little side projects I'm writing. But yeah. So, but if you guys sat through Zechariah 14:12 with me, you guys have also visited this story with me before, last year, when we began the zombie apocalypse saga. So I thought we would visit again since we're going through the whole Sleepwalker book. Oh hell, Kevin says. And I left Stephanie wondering, and Jason's got some stakes up. So anyhow, thank you guys very much for coming out and listening and following along the Sleepwalker saga. I hope you enjoyed this story. Next week, it's going to be a short one. Only because, well, I don't want to ruin it for you, but Bo's going to awaken and shortly, and just be kind of briefed on what's going on. Anyhow, it'll be a lot of what's going on with him will be explained in the next chapter. So I'll say that. But yeah, thank you. Thanks, Shannon. Another great chapter. I appreciate that. Yeah, so we'll continue with that, and then we're taking a break from Horror Hump Day, the week of Christmas. I'm going to record, pre-record a live reading of my story, Midnight Dreary, for Christmas. That'll be our Christmas special. Yeah, and that will be released on Christmas Day. That should come out here on the page, and then I will get that on the YouTube channel as well, so you guys can watch that. I would normally read it live to you guys, but yeah, I'm gonna be in Florida, so. And I'm hoping to be working on my my Ballad of Broken Bird story novel. That one's gonna be my big one, I think. But yeah. See you, Jason. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. I appreciate it. Good. I'm glad you did enjoy, Jessica. Thanks. Yeah. So anyhow, that's what Christmas week is gonna look like. Next week on Tuesday. We're going to have the Tunes for Tuesday Christmas special. That will be a live stream, and that'll be from Bobby Paulson's store, the Winthrop Mercantile, and we'll be going live from there. And we'll be doing Christmas songs, so you guys can listen and sing along. If you guys are in the area, you guys want to come out and stop at the store. And sing along, you're more than welcome to do that as well. We ask that you show up around 7 o'clock, and we'll do some sound checks and stuff like that, and then we will be going live at 8 o'clock next Tuesday for that. So yeah, so if you're not here, tune in where you're at, and we'd be glad to have you. Just kind of, I was running through some Christmas songs this evening, and I was beginning to actually feel that old Christmassy feeling in my chest, and and then I killed it with depression and sorrow. So there we go. Anyhow, I'm sure Christmas is going to be good because I'm going to be I get to hang out with my dad and my stepmom, and yeah. So anyhow, thank you guys very much. I hope you guys have a good week, the rest of your week, and a good weekend. Kevin, I'm glad that we're on for the 21st, I think it is that you said, for breakfast and or brunch or whatever. And then, yeah, so it is going to be a good Christmas. Get to meet up with Kevin. Um, yeah, so all that cool, groovy stuff. All right, you guys. Peace out. Thank you very much. Jessica, Steph, Chuck, Kevin, Shannon. You need to dress as Santa while singing. I might wear a Santa hat. That's about as far as I'm going to go, Shannon. That's as far as I'm going to go, is a Santa hat. So, yeah. So, yeah. Jason, Chuck, thank you guys for showing up. Steph, Kevin, Beth, Bobby. Thank you guys all for coming out and checking us out. All you folks that are just watching and not commenting, thank you very much for coming and liking and sharing all your stuff, or sharing all my stuff. I appreciate that. So I get my badges on on Facebook. So I got really upset with Facebook because I hadn't sent out invites to tonight's deal, and it wouldn't let me. And I usually do like a little preview video of the night's reading, and it wouldn't post it. And so I kept trying to repost it, and then finally it came back with a message saying that I've tried too many times, and then I was banned from using that function. I'm like, what? I'm like, that's kind of how I promote all this stuff, is by that stuff. So yeah, I was getting a little ticked off, but yeah, it is what it is. It all came back, and I was able to still send my invites out at the last minute, but yeah, is what it is, right? You guys made it, and that's all that matters. So thank you very much. I love you all. Mwah. Peace, clap, and we are out. And a bottle of hair grease. Pshaw. Oh, I shut the spaceship off, too, because everybody's dead on it. Boom. There we go. All right. Later, guys. Oh, my goodness me.